All right, I'm getting out ahead of it. I already see down there in the comment section of our first video of the week, everybody panicking, going, oh my gosh, do I need to sell Jonathan Taylor for a bag of peanuts? Well, we're going to go through, we're going to talk about some of these players that I know you're panicking on. Maybe we have a buy low guy here. Maybe we have a couple sell lows. But before we get into it, go down there, drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, you know we have the massive announcement that this week we have a free bet for everyone on Underdog. Last month, it was the Cooper Kupp over under half a receiving yard line. We're going to have a different one later this week. Haven't decided yet. Was hoping y'all were going to give me the player that you wanted down there in the comment section. But if you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, it is not too late. Make sure you sign up before Friday so you can get that player prop. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they will also match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. That free player prop for you. I worked so damn hard to get that for you. Make sure you take advantage of it in the comment section in the description of the video. And also you can see all these other cool player props on Underdog, and you can get into some weekly best ball drafts. But that should be it. Let's go ahead. Let's dive into our first player. We're actually going to go with a pair of guys here because I already know, I can already see it. Everybody in the country is going to be talking about two quarterbacks as they have been for the past month now. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and talk about this from a real life perspective because I'm not a real life NFL general manager. I don't think you are either. I think the only thing that we need to worry about is raw and actual fantasy points. And if we're looking at these quarterbacks, hell, with Aaron Rodgers, we'll start off with him. He's not scoring them. If you're playing in a super flex format, yes, you should be very concerned. Honestly, if anything, I think maybe he's gotten, I don't want to say lucky. That's a poor choice of words. But the man is somewhat saving his day with the 11 passing touchdowns he has so far this season, despite this being his game log. 195, 234, 255, 251, 222, 246, 194, 203. He has 2 games with less than 200 passing yards and 0 games with 300 or more. Rodgers has been horrendous from a fantasy football perspective. Christian Watson goes down this past week. Randall Cobb still in the IR. Allen Lazard dealing with the shoulder injury. I don't see how this gets any better for Aaron Rodgers going forward. So if you're playing in a 1 quarterback redraft league, cut him. You don't need him. Go and stream. Streaming options like Daniel Jones every week is going to give you much better results than going through and playing Aaron Rodgers. If you're playing in a super flex format, I want to say, oh, you can't get anything for him, but hell, if you could trade him and another wide receiver, say you play in a super flex league, you could go through and trade Aaron Rodgers and maybe Terry McLaurin, sprinkle on a little Brian Robinson as someone else we'll talk about later in this video, and go get back Kyler. Sure, I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, though. I think nobody's giving you anything for Rodgers. Now our next guy, Tom Brady. Brady's the opposite end of the spectrum, where with Tom Brady, yes, from a real life perspective, you should probably be a little bit concerned if you're a Bucs fan. However, from a fantasy football perspective, no. So if we look at week 1, that was the week that you had Chris Godwin going down right at the beginning of the game. If you look at week 2, Chris Godwin did not play. Mike Evans got kicked out. If we look at week 3, Mike Evans was suspended. Chris Godwin did not play. Julio Jones did not play. Nobody was in that game. So I think for the first 3 weeks, you can remove them for Tom Brady. And when we get Godwin back, when we get Evans back, that is when we can actually start to evaluate Tom Brady from a fantasy football perspective. And after the first 3 weeks, 385, 351, 243, 290, 325 passing yards. The passing volume is there, even if he doesn't look phenomenal from a real life perspective. From a fantasy football, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. You have 52, 40, 49, 44 passing attempts. Brady's throwing the ball every single down. So yes, panic. Drop Aaron Rodgers if you're playing in a 1 quarterback league. Try to get anything for him if you're playing in Superflex through trade to get an upgrade to a quarterback with rushing upside. However, Tom Brady, maybe you're worried about him from a real life perspective. Fantasy football, he's just fine now. Now, our next guy is going to actually be a pair of teammates here. We'll throw in Davante Adams, Derek Carr, Darren Waller. I mean, obviously it was a train wreck this week, okay? But I want to give a small break to Derek Carr here. I'm not a Derek Carr fan by any means, but if you are looking at Derek Carr, what was he supposed to do? You had Davante Adams clearly with the most serious flu I've ever seen. God knows. Maybe he has the swine flu. God knows what's going on. The man does not have his MJ's flu game. He comes through and he has 1 reception for 3 receiving yards. After I told everybody to start him. Like, thank you, Adams. You have Darren Waller not playing this week either. You have a tough matchup against the New Orleans Saints. Tough matchup. Your wide receiver 1's out. Your second best option's out. We're rolling with Matt Collins under info. I think you can cut Derek Carr some slack. With Davante Adams, I'm throwing this game out the window. Not worried about it at all. I think he was just way sicker than I initially realized. Maybe it's my fault for not taking it as serious as we clearly should have. And I apologize for that. That's 100% my fault. I called him a must-start guy if he was active, and I didn't want to overthink it. With Darren Waller, I am worried about this hamstring. The man was limited at practice all week. For him just to miss, I'm somewhat concerned that this is maybe turning into a Keenan Allen type situation. I mean, I don't know if there's too much to say, Darren Waller. What was most concerning is the fact that he wasn't good before the hamstring injury. If you looked at the usage, he wasn't getting consistent target volume. When he was getting targets, he wasn't doing much with them. Not that excited on Darren Waller at all. Now our next guy, super brief, not going to waste your time for 1 second. Courtland Sutton comes out, does nothing. 1 reception, 13 receiving yards. Does have 4 targets. With Sutton, I'm going to reiterate, I think that if you are looking at games where Jerry Jeudy and Sutton play together, then you are going to have serious issues with Courtland Sutton. The 2 weeks where we've had Jerry Jeudy injured so far this season, Courtland Sutton was dominant. Courtland Sutton, 100 yards a game, just like what we had last year. Remember, if you look at Courtland Sutton's on and off splits with Jerry Jeudy last season, Courtland Sutton, a monster when Jerry Jeudy did not play in 2021, and we saw the same thing in 2022. But we've seen the same thing in 2021 as well as 2022, where when they both play, Jerry Jeudy is the man. Jerry Jeudy in weeks where he's been healthy. So if we're going to remove weeks 2 and 3, 4.5 receptions a game, 70 receiving yards a game. If we did the same thing with Courtland Sutton, remove weeks 2 and 3 when Jerry Jeudy was not healthy, 3.5 receptions a game, 41 receiving yards a game. If you can't sell Sutton, do it. Please. I don't know if you can though. And now our next guy, George Pickens, super brief. I mean, with Pickens, the man has 43 targets on the season compared to Deontay Johnson at 76, Claypool at 50, Pat Freiermuth at 48. Very impressive for the receiving yards per target, blowing out everybody in Pittsburgh out of the water. But still, it doesn't matter. This situation is disgusting. Talked about him as a solid guy this past week. 3 receiving yards, 23, 39, 102, 83, 27, 61. He's been startable 2 weeks for you. The issue is this is not a good enough offense in Pittsburgh. It's a very bad offense combined with that serious target competition that we've already seen. I mean, Freiermuth is actually this close to leading the Pittsburgh Steelers in receiving, despite him actually missing a week compared to these other guys. Now going down to our next player here, Dameon Pierce is someone I feel like we kind of have to talk about. Pierce back-to-back bad weeks. I think this is just kind of what you have to learn to deal with Dameon Pierce. He's playing an horrendous offense. Clearly is still someone that has an extremely large role. He actually has a larger role over the past 2 weeks than what you had at the beginning part of the year when he was scoring more fantasy points. Plays 42 out of 54 snaps this past week. I mean, sees a decent amount of targets out of the backfield. I mean, does get involved somewhat. 5 targets, 3 receptions, 16 receiving yards. Saves his day with the receiving touchdown. Because if you are looking at the rushing mark, you had 15 carries for 35 rushing yards. The issue with Dameon Pierce is not Dameon Pierce himself. The issue with Dameon Pierce is the horrendous offense he's playing in. Very similar to George Pickens. Very similar to our next guy, Brian Robinson. With Brian Robinson, I mean, hell, he lost the starting job. I don't even really care who's the starter here. We've talked about this all season. When Brian Robinson is healthy, if we have Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissic, and Brian Robinson all active, all playing, you can't start any of them. Hell, you had 15 out of 61 snaps for Brian Robinson. I mean, I know a lot of people got mad at us for not ranking him inside our top 30 rest of season running back rankings. I know a lot of people clowned on us for that one. Casual flex. But if we are looking at this going forward, still probably got to keep a roster spot on Brian Robinson, just because if Gibson were to go down, then he does look to be someone you can start every week. But the issue is also going back to what we were saying with the situation in Houston, going back to what we were saying with the situation in Pittsburgh. I'm just kind of tired of rostering these players in horrible offenses. And I mean, I'm not immune to this. I drafted a ton of Deontay Johnson. I'm taking my L. We moved him dramatically down our rankings. Even if he's getting the target volume, I'm just tired of these players in bad offenses. Now, buy low running back for us this past week is someone that I am ready to just give up all hope on. Darrell Henderson. I thought people had given up hope too early, but nope, everybody else was right. I was wrong. Darrell Henderson comes out 24 snaps out of 58 in a three-man committee with Ronnie Rivers and Malcolm Brown. Not nearly as good of an offense as what it once was. This looks completely different than the team that ended up winning the Super Bowl. So I think we probably have to go through and say Henderson's in a similar boat to Brian Robinson that he's worth a roster spot. Like, I don't know if I can go out there and tell you to cut him, but I don't know if we're ever going to start him. Kind of just rostering him to see if something changes. But the thing is with Darrell Henderson, I mean, if you wanted to cut him, and I'm saying this is someone who told you to buy low on him last week, and I apologize, 100% my fault. I was an idiot. If Ronnie Rivers and Malcolm Brown are taking snaps here, if Ronnie freaking Rivers and Malcolm freaking Brown are the reasons why Darrell Henderson's not startable in fantasy, how can this situation change for the better where Henderson becomes the player you're comfortable starting? I don't know about you, but I've known about Ronnie Rivers for approximately 2 days now. He's nobody. Like if he can come out here and if he can stop Henderson, anybody can. Now our last guy, the poster boy of the video, Jonathan Taylor. With JT, another player I said to buy low on, and I'm not going to apologize for this one. Everybody on Sunday night was saying the same thing. Oh my gosh, what do I do with Jonathan Taylor? Do I sell Jonathan Taylor? What do I sell Jonathan Taylor for? What should we be looking for with Jonathan Taylor? I want to sell Jonathan Taylor. What can I get? Everybody's trying to sell Jonathan Taylor. Every single person on the planet. And I will admit, I had Jonathan Taylor ranked as my 101. And I want to give massive props to anybody who ranked Christian McCaffrey over Jonathan Taylor. Phenomenal call. I mean, you earned it. Congrats on your fantasy football championship if you took Christian McCaffrey at the 101 over JT. JT this past week, 16 carries, 76 rushing yards. JT this past week, 0 receptions, where Nyheim Hines does get targeted twice out of the backfield. Nyheim Hines does see 29 receiving yards. The offense doesn't look good with Sam Ehlinger under center. I'm not going to panic, however. You're not getting anything for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, hell, if you can trade JT for Saquon, Eckler, CMC, Henry, Chubb, you go do you pull that deal off. But speaking from someone who reads thousands of comments, thousands of messages in the live chat, and looks at thousands of fantasy football trades every single day, I can tell you, you're not getting one of those running backs for Jonathan Taylor at this point. If you're looking to trade away Jonathan Taylor, you're going to be looking at the tier of guys like Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook. And in that range, I think it is obnoxious to be thinking to go ahead and sell Jonathan Taylor. While yes, he has been bad, the underlying usage is fine. If you are looking at high ankle sprain, I think it takes time for him to come back. Obviously, this is a player that missed out on a few weeks. I think we give him some time. It was Sam Ehlinger's first game ever starting out as an NFL quarterback. But complete transparency, I am one of the clowns who drafted Jonathan Taylor at the 101 in every league that I had to pick. So I am sorry. I may be very biased here, and I may be hoping that Jonathan Taylor isn't dead when he is. But I think that's all I got for you. Of course, thank you so much for supporting this channel. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you want to check out any of these player props, check out our free bet of the week or get a 100% deposit match on Underdog Fantasy. Actually, or is not the right word. And go sign up for Underdog with promo code FLOG. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $200. You can find the link in the comment section. You can find that link in the description. But thank you again. I truly do appreciate you. Hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.